I'm wearing my gloves and my extra sweater because it is especially frosty here in Vancouver, and it is a week after October 27th. And that was a big, big day in video game history because we had Assassin's Creed, we had Super Mario Odyssey, and we had this game. I'm talking about Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus. This is developed by Machine Games. It's published by Bethesda Softworks. It continues the story, this sort of reimagining of the story of B.J. Blazkowicz and all of his compatriots that are challenging this Nazi regime that has overtaken America. And the first game was really, really fun, really tuned, ridiculously cool, way more ambitious than you would think a remake of a classic old FPS from back in the day would ever have a right to be. And I think what we have here with Wolfenstein, the new Colossus, is it's almost like a textbook example of why we need sequels of ambitious titles and games that are trying to kind of break the mold and, trying something different. And we see that with developers, especially kind of up-and-coming developers that maybe haven't matured to a point of saturating their IP or creating a franchise on a kind of an annual basis or something like that. But I see that when we get developers that have some real chops and some real drive and determination to create something cool and fresh, if they're given another opportunity, more often than not, they come out with something really special. And that's exactly what this is. And I really hope that this game is selling because Wolfenstein: The New Colossus is fantastic. It is an absolutely riveting, cool escape. It's timely. We've got the rise of Nazis and fascists happening in America, but in other parts of the world as well. This sort of emboldened kind of element of our society, these racists that have just started to populate and pop up and feel like they can get their megaphones out there and tell people about white power and all that crap. Well, we get a chance to kind of challenge those ideas and the sort of manifestation of those ideas in this video game. And I know that this is fiction. I know that this is kind of revenge fantasy in some ways, not unlike Inglourious Bastards from Quentin Tarantino. But it works. It's effective. It's cool. And, it's really a powerful sort of piece of video game storytelling. We go back to America. The Nazis have sort of overtaken huge swaths of the country. There is a resistance force that is trying to challenge these Nazis from overtaking their communities. But we also see the devastation of cities like New York and New Orleans. And, we go to Mesquite, Texas for a very memorable segment in here. And we go to Roswell, New Mexico, and we get to go to these smaller towns and these bigger cities. We see that bombs have gone off and that Americans have been either forced into compliance, and it is that sinister compliance that is also a very huge part of the reward of this story as well. It's an uncomfortable story, let's be honest here. Some heavy violence kicks things off right at the beginning of the game, and we see B.J. Blazkowicz just go through living hell trying to survive. He's got a relationship with Anya, and they've got babies on the way, and he's just trying to live, to be a father. And but there's all kinds of darkness happening around him. People that he loves and cares about are dying. People that he, would hope would love him have betrayed him. And he just has to kind of suffer through this torment, through this hell. And of course he gets revenge. He takes it out on hordes and hordes, thousands, literally thousands of Nazis and their robotic dogs and their, augmented supervillain-esque types of robot monsters that have, flamethrower grenade launchers. Yes, that's one thing, flamethrower grenade launchers. It's probably one of my favorite weapons in the game. They've also got laser guns and these super high-powered machine guns. You take them down. You also fight these giant Colossus, as the name implies, these huge, hulking, massive robots. You get to go to space again like you did in the first game. This time we traveled to, you know what, I'm not going to tell you. You just got to check that game out. But yes, you do traverse a lot, but you go through holy hell. But it is that sinister compliance that permeates this game that makes you kind of connect the game to what's kind of happening and are sort of, it's not like people are bending over and just sort of accepting this new rise of Nazism that's happening out there. It's just even unbelievable that the word Nazi becomes kind of a trending topic on Twitter or Facebook, So this feels so topical. It feels so Sort of like you got to loosen your collar and get into some nasty stuff. And there is some really heavy racial, epithets that are thrown at characters in here, and you kind of have to suffer through some heinous activity, some well-crafted, and it's a video game, so it doesn't have. You can't really see the ticks and the twitches and the faces of the actors, but it's performed well and it's animated well, and you can see the nuance and you can see the humanity, even if it's ugly humanity in this game. And it's not all just played for laughs. And that's why this game is so rich and so effective. And the other really cool thing here is B.J. Blazkowicz's new family that he kind of found and accumulated in the New Order, the first Wolfenstein game that the Machine Games people put together for us. And in Wolfenstein II, they're a little bit, tighter. They're closer knit because they've gone through all kinds of really awful stuff, and awful stuff befalls members of the family throughout the game, and it sort of draws you into them even more, and you care more about them, and you really appreciate their relationship. And the fact that Bethesda and Machine Games spent the money and the resources to have, these kind of loopy cut sequences. They celebrate BJ's birthday at one point in this thing, and it just puts a smile on your face. Everybody gets drunk and caustic and silly, and it's just really cool to see. It's like Naughty Dog level sort of storytelling inside of this video game, and it's not something that you would ever expect in a Wolfenstein remake. You think of Wolfenstein and you think of steampunk kind of robots that are fused with Nazis and these crazy cybernetic from the 50s or 60s kind of nightmares of what Nazis could have become. But you don't really think of the people and the humanity and how it can cross through generations and how we have concern for them. And that is the magic. And the other thing that I really kind of picked up on here is that Bethesda is publishing this game. They are also publishing Fallout, and there's definitely some crossover and some similarities in the dystopian kind of nightmare that both of those franchises kind of create for us. And the other one was Doom, and I just cannot believe that Bethesda has Fallout, Doom, and Wolfenstein all firing, all not necessarily absolutely perfect. Maybe there's some technical things, maybe there's some stuff that's missing, but they're incredible games, and they're all done sort of independently with their own vibe and their own sort of play styles, but they're all so cool. And you can see in this game moments of familiarity, or moments that kind of remind you of the Fallout universe. They're downtrodden, down on their luck kind of communities that build up after huge devastation in America. And you can also see Doom, and I think in a lot of the outer space weaponry and the kind of creepy environments that are crafted there. This is phenomenal, though. It's really incredible. It's a single-player experience. There's no multiplayer. It doesn't feel maybe quite as lengthy as the first Wolfenstein, the New Order that Machine Games built, but it's still loaded with lots of detail. And of course, there's lots of branching kinds of ways that you can play through the missions. It's still a shooter. You're still just going to be blasting at Nazis, which is always going to be fun, let's face it. And it doesn't really elevate so much there. It doesn't sort of introduce gameplay that we've never experienced in a shooter before. But what it does is provide fantastic context and fantastic kind of jet fuel for you to kind of race into these sequences and want to wipe out all of these Nazi scum. And it's really, really well made. There's tons of great detail. You're going to be looking for all kinds of secrets, and you get to choose at a point in the game. You get these cool augmentations that really kind of open the game up, and you get a few different ways that you can attack each of the different environments that you go into, and it kind of ratifies everything. There's also some big shocks in this thing. I can't wait to see where Machine Games goes next, and I applaud Bethesda for publishing games like this. I absolutely love this game, and I cannot believe what a date October 27th, 2017 has become now in the history of video games. Another phenomenal title. I'm going to give Wolfenstein: The New Colossus 9 out of 10.